And now, for fans of the most exciting sport in the world, the MMA Live Chat Hour. Listen up and find out what's happening in the world of MMA. Hello and welcome to the MMA Live Chat Hour. I'm Rich Davie, and it's November 17th, 2013, the day after the UFC 167 St-Pierre versus Hendricks event. On today's show, we'll be talking about the UFC 167 St-Pierre versus Hendricks event, the of-the-night bonuses, the extremely controversial judge's decision in the St-Pierre versus Hendricks bout, the comments by fans that Hendricks just may have tapped early on in round one, but the tap was missed by the ref. And as we usually do, we'll more than likely go off topic and discuss other things as well in the Final Thoughts segment. Joining us on the show today are yours truly, Hired Merc, Jacob Cooper, Blue Nose Greg, and a new guest on the show, MMA journalist Alex Schlinsky. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the MMA Live Chat Hour, guys. I'm glad you all could join us. Go ahead and say hello to the listeners.
What's up, guys? I'm Hired Merc, and if you guys are interested, you can follow me at Hyde Merc on Twitter.
Yeah, hello guys, nice to be on the show again. And likewise, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob R. Cooper.
Hey guys, I'm Alex Schlinsky. I work for Fansided.com, MMA journalist. You can follow me on Twitter at SchlinskMMA.
Hi guys, it's Blue Nose Greg again. Same name for Twitter. Good to be on again.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining us on the show today. I appreciate you guys showing up. All right, I have to state right up front here that I went 10-2 with my picks in this event, and although I did well overall with my picks, the method and rounds that the fights would be finished in was a bit weak on my part. First up, what we're going to talk about here is the George St-Pierre versus Johnny Hendricks bout. Did anybody get the license plate of that vehicle, because it looked like GSP's face was hit by a truck? Specifically, a big rig.
Well, talking about the damage to GSP's face, I think we can write that off because some people bruise quite easily, and GSP has proven to be one of those people. And for examples, you can just look at any fight that GSP has had, like the Jake Shields fight, the Thiago Alves fight, the Josh Koscheck fight. He always looks like he loses every fight.
We'll get into that more as we get into the topic here, but let's let the listeners know what's going on in this segment here. George St-Pierre defeats Johnny Hendricks by split decision with scores of 48-47, 47-48, and 48-47. To me, it was a very disappointing turn of events to an otherwise outstanding night of fights, and I know there are several MMA fans who favor the old boxing adage that you have to beat the champ in order to be the champ in a close fight, but I have to wholeheartedly disagree with that because, number one, this isn't the flawed sport of boxing, and number two, once that cage door is closed, it's two men on equal footing, and no one man should get the edge or favor in a fight simply due to his stature. I have to admit straight away that I was predicting the upset and Hendricks would win, and I expected him to get a win early on by KO or TKO in the bout, and I never expected the fight to go to a decision. I had the fight scored during the emotions in the live event, 49-46 Hendricks, but I'll admit that my scoring was a bit biased during the fifth round because, I was caught up in the moment and I was, expecting, Hendricks to win the fight. But, after my emotions settled, yeah, GSP definitely won the fifth round, but in my opinion, at best, he won 2 rounds, at the most.
Well,
I've already seen numerous MMA fans starting to rationalize why the judge's decision was acceptable, but only MMA fans are making those excuses. And as usual, I was watching Twitter during the fights, and I did not see one professional fighter tweet in favor of a GSP win. But there was a plethora of professional MMA fighters that were enraged about the decision by the judges last night, and Pat Militich's comments pretty much sums things up. One of his comments on Twitter was, when a room full of experienced fighters all agree on a decision and it goes the other way, you have problems. Okay, let's talk about things in this bout here, and the very odd post-fight interview in the octagon between Joe Rogan and GSP, where George was apparently trying to make the move into retirement, but he wouldn't come out and emphatically and definitively state so. But it sounded to me like GSP knows that he lost the fight and that he can't compete with the new blood in the sport, so he needs to take some time off to reevaluate his situation. Dana White also made the comments that GSP will not retire because he owes it to the fans, the sport, the UFC, and Johnny Hendricks to have a rematch to settle the questionable outcome. And apparently GSP's talk of retirement has been quelled by that pressure that was put onto him from Dana White, because today there is indeed talk of a rematch. There was also a moment early on in the fight where it looked like Hendricks just might have tapped, and that was at the 20-second mark in round one. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I had scored the fight 49-46 Hendricks, but I was, in fact, a bit biased in that. I had rounds 1, 2, 4, 5 for Hendricks, and I admit that after my emotions settled down, round 5 was clearly for GSP. So how about you guys? How did you score the fight and the rounds?
I just want to say Joe Lozon also scored it for GSP.
Well, for me, I think there were three very clear rounds, which were round 2 and round 4 for Hendricks. There's no denying. And as you were saying, round 5 for GSP. I think round 1 was as close as they come. Hendricks outlanded him, I believe, 25-24 in total strikes, and 27-26 in total strikes. Whereas GSP outlanded Hendricks 19-18 in significant strikes, and there was a takedown apiece. So, based on the stats, round 1 was a very close one, and round 3 as well. I think you could give it either way, but personally, on my first watch, I was outraged by the decision, and I thought Hendricks won quite clearly. But watching it again, I can see an argument for GSP winning. I really can.
See, for me, I thought it was straightforward. The last 4 rounds I thought were easy to score. 2 and 4 for Hendricks, 3 and 5 for GSP, and it all hinged on the first round. But the fight, it was obvious Hendricks won the fight, but the fight's not scored as a fight. It's scored as 5 individual fights in each round, and because of that, it gives a chance for a fighter to look really bad and win the fight. GSP could have lost 1 round by getting knocked down 5 times and then won all the other 4, but he would win the fight on that basis.
Yeah, I think Hendricks won the fight, but not the contest.
Yeah, the scoring's the issue here. It's not how the fight was, how the result came out. It was the scoring that's the problem. Because GSP came away with a win when he lost the fight.
That's something that we touched up on. If it was based on the pride scoring method, where obviously there are different rounds. There's 1 solid 10-minute round and then 2 5-minute rounds in championship fights. But based on the pride scoring, I think the damage that GSP took would mean that there'd be no argument that Hendricks won. But based on the 10-point must system that is currently in place, I think it is a bit of a toss-up, which it shouldn't be, really.
Okay, well, let's get everybody's opinion on the scores first, and then we'll go into the discussion. The rest of you guys, how did you have it scored for the fight and the rounds?
I had it 48-47 for Hendricks. I thought the round 1 was close, but I thought the elbows by Hendricks in the middle of the round were by far the most significant strikes. GSP looked rocked by it. He was also rocked by a big knee to the body. The knees to the thigh. He was controlling him the round. GSP's world-class jab was on display as usual, but I thought Hendricks took that round. I actually thought he definitely took that round. I don't think it was very close either. The second round was obviously Hendricks. He almost finished him. I'm actually shocked he didn't finish him. GSP looked very wobbly. Third round was an incredible comeback by GSP. Once again, just establishing the world-class jab, stinging rights and overhand rights. The fourth round was all Johnny Hendricks, ground and pound, effective striking, and then the fifth round was GSP. I just don't. I thought it was I thought Hendricks did step off the gas a little bit in round 5. I think that might have been his downfall as well. But I really believe everyone that I was in the room with when the final bell rang, we just believed we watched history. We just believed that we just saw the greatest welterweight champion in the history of the business go down to Johnny Hendricks. He outstriked him. He outgrappled him. He outwrestled him. He beat the champion for the boxing adage. He didn't knock him out, but he almost finished him. Okay? He did more damage than Carlos Condit did, and Carlos Condit was a close fight. Obviously, Nick Diaz didn't do anything, but that's George St-Pierre. And he looked amazing last night, and I feel Johnny Hendricks was stolen. He got everything he worked hard for was stolen from him.
I agree.
As for the Pride rules, unfortunately, we're not in Pride anymore. They don't. There's a reason that's a defunct promotion. It's not maybe because of their 10 rounds or the scoring system, but this is the scoring system we have. And it doesn't look like Keith Kaiser wants to change it anytime soon, even when Dana White continually bashes the judges. So what they need to do is get competent judges that can watch a fight. As Pat Miletich says, if every fighter in a room believes that Johnny Hendricks won that fight and George St-Pierre comes out as the champion, there's something wrong here. That's not right. Especially since this guy just went through a training camp after beating 2 guys he should have already been fighting GSP. Nick Diaz should have never got that fight at 158. That should have been Johnny Hendricks already. He should have never had to fight Carlos Condit. And he beat Carlos Condit. And he beat Josh Koscheck too. And then he beat George St-Pierre last night, and he did not get the title. And that is wrong.
But see, my argument with the judging is, like, when it comes to significant strikes, how significant is significant? Because, as you were saying, the elbows by Johnny Hendricks, they were very significant, but, I mean, would you call an outside leg kick significant? What counts as a significant strike? You know,
well, let's get everybody else's opinion on the scores here before we start going into discussion. How about the rest of you guys? I don't think Blue finished giving his scores. And
yeah, I did.
You did?
Yep.
Mark, was that you who didn't chime in?
Yeah, I've yet to speak.
That's a good time for everything.
That's a good thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, you're Scottish, so you can fuck off.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I think my opinion is, like, completely different to pretty much everyone in this call and all MMA fans. Like, first round I gave to Hendricks. I didn't think that was as close as statistics or anything like that make it out to be. And then second round scored for Hendricks as well. But then the last 3 rounds I gave to George, like, GSP. But my criteria is completely different to what the judges is. Like, 10 points must system, I agree with that. It has to be 10 points. But the criteria, I don't. If someone gets a takedown and does nothing with it, you're not getting you don't get any points at all. I don't see why you should. You're just laying there doing nothing. And in the 4th round, I don't think Hendricks did anything with his takedown. I mean, he cut him, but then after that, it was on the feet, and GSP kind of controlled it for me. So I gave him the last 3 rounds, and I can see how it's a close fight, but I don't see how anyone can call it a robbery or anything like that when a fight is as close as that fight was.
Well, you're clearly in the minority because almost every fighter that I saw on Twitter says contrary to what you're saying there. But I do want to talk about this, guys. What do you guys think about that old boxing adage? You have to beat the champ to be the champ in a close fight. As I mentioned earlier, totally disagree with that. Again, this isn't boxing, and even in boxing, I think that's a flawed premise. And, you know, like I know that Blue and I, you know, have agreed on this in the past, where once that door is closed, you know, that cage door is closed, I mean, those 2 men should be equal, you know, when they start the fight out. Not one man should be favored over the other just because he's the champ.
Rich, I don't think that they actually believe that one man is favored. I don't think the judges go in thinking that, but I do think that it holds some power, the idea of you have to beat the champ to be the champ. Just if you look back in the history of MMA, it's never really been that way. I guess the John Jones-Gustafsson fight, you could say that, but that was such a close fight. Like, it was so much closer than this fight, I believe, in my opinion. But if you go back to Benson Henderson and Frank Yeager, the first fight, Benson Henderson did not beat the champ per se, but he got the decision, right? What was the big significant strike in that fight? An up kick. Oh, okay. Frank Yeager could take the most punishment in the UFC. So, I mean, the boxing adage of beat the champ to be the champ, it doesn't really work in MMA. They say it because Joe Rogan likes to talk about it, but it's been proven that that's not true. And if you even want to say it's true, Johnny Hendricks beat the champ last night. He beat him up. And for those who say that the damage on his face doesn't matter in a fight, it absolutely matters. It might not matter for scoring round-wise, but overall in the fight, Johnny Hendricks looks fine. Mm-hmm. GSP just got his ass kicked.
I agree.
But you've got to score it on a round-to-round basis.
Exactly. So overall in the fight, it doesn't mean anything. It's on a round-to-round basis.
It's just an added thing. That's the thing. If you looked at their two faces, you would definitely think that that GSP had just been run over or something. Whereas
but look
Johnny
at
Hendricks
GSP and
literally just gone for a jog.
Look at GSP's face after every single fight, and then you can just say, "Oh yeah, he lost."
All right. So what is that telling you?
That's not how it works.
Because in the old days, that wasn't the GSP that we saw. In the old days, GSP's face didn't get beat up like that. But we're seeing that more and more now with his more recent fights.
He also has been complaining about memory loss, which I think when there are things like that, I think you need to step away from the sport.
Well, he's also speaking about he's having trouble sleeping at night as well. But
yeah,
that post-fight press conference was pretty scary last night.
Yeah,
completely. So yeah, I think as much as I'd like to see the rematch, I think it might be time for him to step away. I'd personally be more interested in a Condit versus Hendricks rematch.
Okay, I want the opinion on the rest of you guys from Beat the Champ.
I don't agree with that because, like Alex mentioned, Henderson didn't exactly beat the champ, but he got the title. I scored for Henderson anyway, but I don't know. It was so close that if you took the beating the champ thing into consideration, he didn't beat the champ per se, and I just think that's really stupid and. That's why I don't like boxing, because I think boxing's stupid when it comes to that type of stuff.
Okay, Blue, how about you?
Well, like you said before, I side with you usually. I think two guys go in the cage. When you're inside the cage, there is no champion. You've got to win. But it's obvious where the phrase comes from, because you do need to beat the champ to be the champ. Otherwise, you aren't. But it's
okay. So then
it's a bit null and void. Really, two guys have got to fight to find a winner. There's not a winner before it starts.
Okay, so then would you say more often than not that the judges are, utilizing that old adage? I mean, yeah, every once in a while there's an exception to that, but I'm seeing, within the last, couple of events here that it seems that adage is what the judges are going by. You got to beat the champ, and they're favoring the champ. When clearly, to me, the Jones-Gustafsson fight, Gustafsson won that fight. I don't know how the rest of you guys feel, but again, we saw it last night.
Well, for me, if that's the case, you've got to beat the champ to be the champ. There wouldn't be a time limit. You've got to finish him. If that was the case,
it's interesting.
That's a good point.
Well, no, because a judge can decide that you've won that fight, therefore you've beat the champ.
But what I mean is, they say that you've got to beat them decisively, and surely the most decisive fashion
that's not
is to finish.
That's not what the saying is. The saying is not you've got to beat the guy decisively to be the champ. It's just you've got to beat the champ to be the champ.
Yeah, but
I thought the saying meant that you have to finish him.
Well, as a matter of fact, guys, last night James Krause made a comment on Twitter where he said, "Jesus, what more do you have to do to win? You have to finish fights to win and beat the champion." If you don't beat the champion and finish him, you don't win the fight.
Everyone knows that you don't leave it in the hands of the judges.
Look, you can't say that. Dana White. That's one of those things. I dislike that more than the beat the champ, be the champ. Don't leave it in the hand of the judges. Oh, you mean just go out there and finish the greatest fighter possibly in UFC history, the greatest welterweight champion. Yeah, don't leave it in the hand of the judges. He only has 25 minutes to try to do what 20 other men could not do.
I think he says that because, Dana White always goes on about how bad these athletic commissions are. And I don't think he's saying that as though it's an easy task. I think he more says that to defend himself. Because a lot of people that are casual fans think that Dana White controls who the judges are. I think he's more sort of sticking it to the judges.
Not leaving it in the hands of the judges means leave it in your control. You're the one that controls the fight. If you win the fight by knocking the guy out or submitting him, you're the only person that can make that the decision. If you go 5 rounds, then your fate is in someone else's hands. At least if you finish the fight, it's in your hands alone.
But are you telling me that he wasn't trying to finish him?
Oh, of course he was, but you've all said it already. He could have done more in round 5.
Well, Hendricks himself came out after the fight and said, I was only fighting at 70%, and GFW said to him, well, you should have been fighting at 100.
There you go, exactly.
He actually said that?
Yeah.
He said punching at 70%, not fighting at 70%.
Yeah, exactly. Either way, he wasn't giving it as much as he could have possibly given it.
He's never been in a 5-round fight. He's never been in a 5-round fight. He needs to pace himself.
He's also never been in a title fight with a chance to win a belt.
He also never fought anyone near the talent level. We're talking about a guy that lost to Rick Story right now. Do you understand the difference right here? Rick Story. He lost to Rick Story 4 years ago? 4 years ago?
He lost to Matt Serra.
That was
a few years ago as well.
Matt Serra,
Anderson Silva lost to Rio Chonin.
Exactly. People lose.
It's all irrelevant.
Johnny Hendricks' skill has gone up exponentially since in every fight. He's looked incredible. Last night he beat the champion in impressive fashion, I believe. He almost finished him twice in that fight, maybe a couple more times. The elbows in round.
I'm upset that he didn't go in for the kill in round 2 there when he clearly had GSP on wobbly legs, man.
I agree. Also, I don't know why he didn't.
Was it round 3 where it looked like he was trying to really pace himself?
Yeah,
round 3 he looked gassed.
That comment.
Yeah.
Round 3 he looked gassed. He looked like he was done. I thought from there on it was going to be a GSP jab fest, and then he was going to take him down and beat him.
Well, that's the way that Joe Rogan wanted to lead the audience, because him and Goldie are good at that lately. They want to put that perception in people's minds that the fight is going a certain way, when I don't always agree with their commentary.
They need to be more objective, but it's very hard when he's there and watching just Johnny Hendricks fight incredibly against one of the best fighters ever. It's hard to tone the emotion down because of the situation he's in.
Well, it's similar to the Jones Gustafsson fight, because obviously when you think about it, no one really gave Gus much of a chance, really. I mean, they played up all the the fact that they've both got a similar range, but I don't think anyone really thought that Gustafsson would look as good as he did.
Nobody did.
He looked incredible.
Exactly, and I think it's more. I think the commentators, which you may think is good, you may think is bad, I think they're fans of the UFC. They're not sort of like emotionless commentators that just say it how they see it. They talk like fans, like, whoa, that was amazing, like, if you see what I mean. And it's up to you if you like that or not.
Quick poll, who here likes Joe Rogan?
I like Rogan.
I love Joe Rogan.
Okay, who here likes
him as a person?
Who likes Goldie?
I like Goldie.
As an announcer.
I think Goldie's is pretty dumb, but
well, Goldie relates to the audience as the everyman MMA fan. He's not the best, but he's what the newer fans relate to, because he's your everyman.
A very distinctive voice as well, which I think it just wouldn't be right without Goldie. I don't like it when John Anik's taking on the role as Goldie. I don't think it's the same.
I'm not a fan of his either. I agree with you.
I think Kenny Florian's amazing. Let me say this. I believe Joe Rogan does his job better than anyone in the business. I think the guy for Bellator is good. Jimmy Smith, I think he's pretty good too. But Joe Rogan is amazing technically. He explains situations on the ground better than anyone by far. Any casual MMA fan can know what an armbar is by watching Joe Rogan commentate a fight. literally.
I agree. He's definitely the best. But let's move on and talk about. So what do we think here? Do we think that the problem lies in the judging and the scoring? Where does the problem lie with this guy? I mean,
The scoring.
The scoring.
It's definitely the scoring.
I would say the judging criteria, not the scoring. Because 10 points mod system, I fully agree with. And I don't agree with draw rounds either. I don't think they exist at all.
The criteria is too open to interpretation. It's not. I don't think it's objective enough. It needs to be more objective rather than.
Well, I agree. I agree with Mark because I don't think it's the scoring that's at issue. I think it's fucking judges.
Exactly, and
I
think
judges are so inconsistent and so open to interpretation of what's what. And I don't think the answer, like a lot of people are saying, is, well, let's go back to Pride rules. Well, come on, that's one of the things that finished Pride off. For Christ's sake, I mean, some of the outcomes of those fights were highly questionable, man. And
they're horrendous.
I mean, especially the Ninja Hua versus Rampage fight. I remember that. That was ridiculous to see.
That's a perfect example of it.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, one judge might see a takedown as a really crucial thing, even if they can't do damage on the ground. Whereas one judge might favour if a guy's on his back and he's working. It is too open to interpretation. There's got to be, you've got to see either a takedown as this amazing thing or jiu-jitsu as an amazing thing. If you see what I mean, there's got to be a status quo.
Yeah, I agree, and we've mentioned this in other shows as well. But I think the only way to really solve this problem is to have some sort of an educational program that refs and judges go through, so that they become certified, so they're all on the same page.
Well, like I said, Herb Dean.
But how does that solve last night? How does that solve last night, though? Because I don't think they scored the fight all that wrongly last night.
I think they did.
Well, I think the main.
The only round
they
got wrong was the first round.
No, I think the worst piece of judging for definite is whichever judge gave it 29-28 for Rory McDonald.
That was
as clear.
Well, we'll get down to that fight. Let's keep on topic here.
Hang on, I'm with Greg on that because I don't see there wasn't much problems with the way the fight was judged. But then I want the criteria changed because the fact is, if someone gets a takedown and does nothing with it, you haven't won the fight. You're just laying on top of a guy.
I think what was worse was the fact that I'm not sure if it was one or two judges that gave John Jones 4 rounds over Gustafsson.
Yeah,
I think that was worse than a judge giving 1 round that was a really close one in favour of GSP.
I agree with that, but also, can we talk about how is it possible to be more objective when you're a judge? You can't score a punch. You can't say, a jab is a half a point and an overhand right's a full point, a knockdown is this. It's all subjective. That's why everyone has different scoring systems. No matter what scoring system there is, there's always going to be someone that doesn't agree with you. In this call alone, there's 5 of us, and 2 people believe GSP won, and 3 people believe Hendricks won. So it's
what I meant in terms of objective, though, is that there needs to be,
a standard.
Then you can't have one judge that favours a certain form of mixed martial arts. There can't be one judge that's an ex-wrestler, say.
And I think that's exactly where the problem lies.
Yeah.
Why are there boxing judges judging MMA?
Which shouldn't be.
That should
That's what
never
I'm saying
happen.
to you. The reason that we're having this problem is because everyone is so open to the interpretation of how to score the bouts. So it's the judging that's the problem, because they're sitting there looking at it in their frame of mind from where they come from, and that's what I'm saying. If there's some sort of accredited, educational certification, then, everybody will be on the same page, hopefully.
I agree with you on the whole of that point, but that wouldn't have solved last night's problem with GSP and Hendricks. It just wouldn't have fixed anything.
The only way we can fix this is just to get Cecil Peoples to judge every single fight.
Alright. Before we
just him on his own.
Move on. Before we do move on,
All the time here. What did you guys think about the post-fight interview there with GSP and Joe Rogan? That was kind of freaky, wasn't it?
It was weird.
Yeah, he seemed a bit punch drunk, GSP.
Do you
I
think
don't
he was
blame
more
him.
punch drunk than Diego Sanchez was at 66?
Oh no, definitely not.
He seemed like he was scared to say what he really wanted to.
Yeah, he wanted to retire, but then he doesn't want to regret it, I think.
What really didn't make sense to me was the fact that in the pre-fight press conference, GSP was saying, "Oh no, if I was retiring, I'd have told Dana White a long time ago," and all stuff like this.
And
He
GSP
said he'd make it an official thing.
to the fact that he was going to have this fight with Hendricks, and then he was going to start considering super fights. I don't know if you guys saw that article.
Yeah, but Dana White said that super fights aren't going to happen. He said that it was a nice idea, but he's not going to.
But that was GSP's mindset.
Dana White says that now that they're not going to happen, but if GSP told Dana White tomorrow, I'll carry on fighting, but I only want to fight Anderson Silva and John Jones, the super fights would happen.
Exactly.
I don't think GSP would fight John Jones.
No,
Yeah,
I was
he
just
wouldn't.
picking a name for the sake of it, but yeah.
Look, I think we can all agree here that George St-Pierre is the greatest welterweight champion ever in the UFC. I think we can all also agree that if he retired, it would stink right now, but it would make sense. The guy clearly has some issues. He's not a lot of people forget these guys are also human beings. They're going in there, they're getting punched in the face, kneed in the face. Johnny Hendricks is the real deal. That guy can punch hard. You saw GSP's face last night. He was messed up.
Well, and also, guys, when you're a multimillionaire, you're going to make so many millions, and then at some point or another, you've got to question, do I want to keep going in and fighting and getting my face pounded in? Because
Exactly.
since
exactly what I
GSP
was
came
thinking.
back, he has not looked good. My opinion.
I disagree. He looked really good against Condit in his comeback fight, and I thought he destroyed.
Didn't
Nick.
look like the old GSP, no question about that.
The Nick
Yeah, but then
Diaz fight.
Condit was more dangerous than any other opponent GSP faced at that point.
Whoa. Look, GSP needs to obviously step away. He clearly has issues. He's clearly had issues for a long time. If you guys ever watched him on the Joe Rogan Hour, on the Joe Rogan podcast, I know people made fun of him for saying about the aliens thing.
Yeah.
But if you ever watch that, if you also realize that this is a person and he's actually sharing something with Joe Rogan, if you take that what he's saying is true, then obviously he's having problems. If he
Okay,
really,
I have to stop you there because I didn't hear about that, and I want to hear about that. What was it with the aliens?
he said that he had problems with time. That sometimes he would look at the clock, it would be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he looked back and it would be 8 o'clock at night, and it would be in a second. And he thought that maybe it was aliens, or he doesn't know, he's going crazy. And this was 2 years ago, before his injury, I believe.
Wow, I didn't hear about that. So apparently
Yeah,
he's
the only way I know about it
experiencing missing time, and his DNA is being used by aliens, eh?
Yeah, the only way that I know about that is because of the Tommy Toehold show.
Wow.
Right. So I honestly, I really recommend everyone in this show and everyone listening to listen to that portion of that show that St-Pierre did, and last night. Last night, he repeated himself about 800 times, the exact same things. Hendricks hits like a truck. That was the hardest fight. I put in my soul. I don't want to leave the UFC. He said everything a million times. The guy has problems. He doesn't need to be fighting anymore, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he should have lost the fight last night.
Yeah, well, apparently that's not going to happen because, as I said earlier, DFW put the pressure on him, and there is going to be a rematch. So, all right, let's move on, guys. Anything else in that one there that we want to speak about real briefly? Only a minute or two. Anybody?
Well, I was going to say that GSP deserves a vacation, and he hasn't had one. He was out for a year, but he was injured. That's not a vacation. After a fight, a brutal fight like that, he deserves a vacation. So
I think that if GSP does go away for however long he's saying, he needs to give up the belt. He really does, because if not, that's just there's gonna have to be an interim title or something. It's just gonna
One last
mix
thing.
up the decision.
One last thing that I want to hear from all of you. I said this to Rich last night. If GSP vacates the title, Condit Brown winner versus Hendricks for the interim title.
I did just say that, but what about Robbie Lawler? Robbie Lawler just got
fights
past.
Tyron Woodley. Robbie Lawler fights Tyron Woodley.
No, because I think Jake Shields is above Tyron Woodley now.
Yeah, I would say Shields versus Lawler too.
Okay, so Shields Lawler. Why not?
Yeah.
But I think Lawler beat Rory McDonald, which is damn impressive.
Lawler does not get the title shot because Matt Brown's been on a 7-fight win streak. If Matt Brown beats Carlos Condit, he has to fight for the title. That would be insane.
Yeah, probably right there.
All right.
As much as I wouldn't like it.
Let's move on now.
Okay, let's do the final comment on this fight here. Again, we mentioned this at the teaser at the opening of the show here. There was a moment early on in the fight where it looked like Hendricks just might have tapped, and that was at about the 20-second mark in round 1. What did you guys think about that? Did you guys see it?
I don't know. I don't think it was a tap. I don't know. It's open to interpretation, I guess. It was... He sort of touched GSP's thigh like twice, but I don't think that was a distinct tap. Because it took him like a second to get out of...
Yeah, it looked like he was actually feeling, and he did do like a double pat, but it didn't look like he was intentionally tapping.
If you haven't seen it, Zombie Prophet has a GIF of it, so you could watch it. But it looks like he's just maneuvering to get out from the guillotine.
When I seen it in fight time, I actually thought he was tapping, but looking at it again, it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, I agree with you, because when I saw it in real time, I also thought it was a tap, but then when I watched it again, it was only, 2 taps, and it looked like he was actually feeling, with his right hand.
Yeah.
Well, personally, I didn't see it both times, because, to me, he didn't tap. If you want to class that as a tap, then they can class Randy Couture spanking Tito as a tap as well.
Okay, so we all pretty much agree on that, so that's not really an issue, and we all say that was not a tap, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. We already spoke about the judges and the scoring. We spoke about Dana White being upset, but what we didn't mention is that Dana White was so pissed off at the result of the fight and the judging that he did in fact say that he's afraid to actually go back to Nevada because of the judging. So,
yeah, Dana White says a lot of things, though.
Yeah, fuck
yeah. He says a lot of shit in the heat at the moment.
Dana White's a great promoter, but he says too much before things go down. In the last 2 weeks, we had the little nog, Alexander Gustafsson. He said it, and then he said that, Gustaf's little nog didn't even agree to the fight, and then I forgot the other thing.
Jones Teixeira.
Yeah, so he announced UFC 170, and then Jones pulled out. So
that's a valid argument because DFW does say that, but again, I guess he does that and jumps on things prematurely sometimes for the the free press and promotion that'll get him.
But that's why he's best, because he's the realest guy in the business, and he's better than anyone, and he's better than any commissioner in any sport.
I mean, saying that, would people, if he announced, because he wasn't supposed to announce the Vanderlei versus Sonnen, them two as coaches, he wasn't supposed to announce that when he did. So, I mean, if he did announce it after Chael just got his ass handed to him by Rashad Evans, would anyone actually be interested in that?
100%. Chael Sonnen is the most attractable fighter in the UFC. People either hate him or love him.
Would it even be shown on US television?
Well, we'll talk about that next, because next up we're going to talk about Rashad Evans and Chael Sonnen. But what do they do? I mean, if GFW and the UFC, Zuffa organization decide not to go back to Nevada, would that actually force Nevada to reconsider their situation with their judges?
Keith Kaiser has shown time and time again that he does not care what Dana White says. He'll back Kim Winslow forever, even though she stands up arm triangle chokes and she's reffing a 205-pound men's fight. She can't ref, and Keith Kaiser will still continually say that everything's fine. So it doesn't matter what Dana White says because they're not going to do anything, and there's no way that they're never going to go back to Vegas. Vegas is the fight capital of the world, as he always says, and it's the UFC's home. They're not going anywhere.
Well, I think if UFC had it their way, they'd have New York as their fight capital. But obviously, there's so much shit going on there that...
I don't know, man. New York is pretty liberal, and the liberals aren't really crazy about...
No, that's what I mean. I think if the UFC had it their way, though, they'd prefer New York. Maybe even Texas.
What do you think about that situation with Nevada and DFW's comment?
It's just posture. There's nothing in it. Vegas is their home. They'll be fighting there. Simple as that. That'll not make any difference one way or the other. What he said.
I don't get how. I mean, I know he had an absolute nightmare with the Kraus versus Green fight, but I don't know how John McCarthy still is unable to ref in Nevada.
Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
That's a Keith Kaiser thing. This guy's the head of the commission. What's his deal?
I think Kaiser's. The thing is, Kaiser's got an ego just like Dana White.
Huge ego. Huge. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Mark, what's your opinion on the topic?
Honestly, because Dana said it, I don't care. I mean, he talks so much shit all the time when he's emotional. Yeah, I don't care. He doesn't mean it, so it means nothing to me.
Okay, so let's move on. Pretty much the consensus is that we think that's an empty threat by DFW, and that's not going to go anywhere.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, next up, Rashad Evans versus Chael Sonnen. This one went as many suspected that it would in regard to who would win the fight because Evans was the clear favorite.
Not cool.
I personally was choosing my man, Mr. Chael P. Sonnen, but more because I'm a major fan of his. But Chael did not look good in that fight, and once again, when it went to the ground and he was confronted with a ground and pound, type of fighter who got on top of him, he didn't fare well at all in that one. And just so the listeners know, Rashad Evans defeated Chael Sonnen by TKA due to strikes in round 1 at 4:05. So, do you guys think that Chael overlooked Rashad since he's already booked for his next fight, or what do you guys think?
He didn't overlook him. Rashad's just better. I thought Chael might have been able to dominate him by getting him down and taking top position himself. He didn't manage to do that.
Say that,
and
but,
when Chael's got someone on top of him, he doesn't like being hit and he gives up, I think. He just flattens every time. Every time somebody gets on top and starts landing bombs, he just flattens out and gives up.
Before the fight, Sonnen did actually admit that he was overlooking Rashad. He actually did admit it.
He didn't say that.
I don't believe that.
It was something along them lines.
He said Vanderlei
was distracted.
Look, Chael Sonnen took this fight because the UFC needed it to happen. Rashad Evans needed to fight a big name. Chael Sonnen's one of the biggest names you can get because the light heavyweight division is thin, and they need to build Rashad Evans back up. They need people to forget that he lost to Little Nog in the worst fight I've ever seen. They need people to forget that. And what did they do? They fed him to the wolves. Chael Sonnen is a smaller version of Rashad Evans. He got beat up by the same fighter who has bigger punching power, and that's it. He's going to move down to 185, coach with Vanderlei at Tough Brazil. It's going to be the biggest Tough Brazil ever. If they do it in the U.S., it's still going to be big. And then Chael's going to go in and destroy Vanderlei. It's going to be that simple. They needed it, and Chael's the company guy, so he's going to take a beating. Chael knew he wasn't going to win this fight. If you saw before his stuff before the fight, I don't know how I'm going to beat him. He's a great fighter. This isn't Chael. Chael's the guy that talks crap and says that Brazilian kids are playing in the mud. He says that they don't have internet, and he's going to go down there and kick Vanderlei's butt. It's that simple.
Yeah, and also Rashad Evans, for a lot of people who don't know this, Rashad Evans also, for some of the fans who don't know this, he actually came into the UFC fighting in Tough as a heavyweight.
Yeah, but a lot of people do that. Kenny Florian was fighting at a middleweight at Tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying he's a larger man. That's
100%.
Pretty much supporting what you were saying there about how Sonnen was, a little bit smaller than,
Chael last night at the press conference said that he's been trying to adjust to 205, but he can't. When you saw it against John Jones, John Jones was a freaking mammoth compared to him.
Yep.
Shogun was even bigger than him, but Shogun is pretty much a terrible fighter now, so Chael Sonnen is still an elite fighter. It's just Rashad Evans is just a younger, bigger, better version of him. It's that simple.
So,
yeah, Rashad Evans, he did look impressive in that one, and you got to give credit where credit is due. And, yeah, you're right. He did need a win because he was actually pretty much mentally defeated and saying that, or intimating again that he was going to be another fighter who was considering, leaving the octagon and going to the anchor chair over at Fox. So,
and that Dan Henderson fight was not impressive at all. He barely beat Dan Henderson. Like, it was pathetic, especially coming off such a terrible loss to Little Nog, and he had no performance in the John Jones fight. John Jones freaking struck him out, basically.
Yep.
Rashad Evans is a huge draw for the UFC. Rampage Rashad on Tough, that was huge.
Yep.
That was huge. A lot of people like Rashad Evans. A lot of people. And when he's not good, that's bad for the UFC. So what do? They're going to put him against Chael Sonnen, the biggest name. That's a great idea. And guess what? He destroyed him.
Yep.
And guess what? He's going to have a big fight next time.
Mark, how about you? You got any comments?
It kind of hurt to watch that. I'm a huge Chael Sonnen fan. See him get destroyed in round 1. To say it was a surprise, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say it would be a surprise because I would go into the fight. I knew Evans had the better wrestling, the better striking. I just knew Evans was going to win the fight, but I didn't think it would be the first round like that. And I'm glad Rashad actually came in with this motivation because now hopefully he'll be the Rashad Evans that won the title and not the Rashad Evans that fought Dan Henderson or Phil Davis or John Jones because they bored the fuck out of me.
100% agree right there, man. Oh my God, I can't agree with you more.
Yep. Anybody else before we move on?
Did anyone think that Chael looked poor in the wrestling category, or what do you think? What do you think was the real downfall of the fight?
I think it was his size. That was the problem.
I agree. I think Chael, if they were doing a wrestling match, Chael would be fine against Rashad. Honestly, Chael's probably the best wrestler in the UFC, I think. Actually, Daniel Cormier. But, okay, regardless. Chael Sonnen was just not strong enough or big enough to take the punches that Rashad was dishing out. It just couldn't do it.
Lou, you get the final word on this.
I've got nothing more to say. I was just disappointed in Chael because
Blue's just given up.
Well, that's what Chael did. He gives up too easily in fights, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's my biggest criticism.
Once he goes to the ground and somebody gets on top of him,
he gives up.
I agree with Blue, man. Once that happens and he, is confronted by a ground and pound, sort of a fighter, he pretty much, gives up.
I don't agree with that.
If I got mounted by Rashad Evans and I knew that I was going to make the sort of money that Chael Sonnen's making regardless,
don't do that. Don't compare yourself like that. That's silly. Come on, like the guy. I don't think he gives up. I just think there's literally nothing he can do. He's not a jiu-jitsu guy. He's not a scrambler like a flyweight. He can't wrestle Rashad Evans off of mount. No, anyone that picked Chael Sonnen in that fight picked him because we're big fans of him, including me.
He just said that Chael Sonnen's the best wrestler in the UFC. If he's the best wrestler in the UFC, he can get Rashad Evans off of him.
He is, but not when he's on his back, mounted, getting punched in the face.
Yeah,
we're talking about a wrestling match where he can't get punched, where he could turn over, flip him over, use his Greco-Roman, then fine. But he's getting punched and elbowed in the face by a bigger, stronger man.
Yeah,
but
there's a difference between MMA wrestling and wrestling.
Yeah, but I think the fact that he gives up his back so easily is the problem. That's what I mean. He does. His instinct, for some reason, is to go to his back instead of trying to scramble to half guard, which I think is a problem because I'd much rather try and get to half guard than have someone take my back who's grounded and pounded on me.
Have you watched the fight again?
I haven't, but
okay. Well,
I remember that.
I watched it this morning, and Chael, when he got taken down, was moving for half guard. Rashad ended up getting mount and landed a huge elbow. After that elbow, that's when Chael turned over because the elbow was vicious. He didn't have anything for him.
Okay, fellas, let's move on. Let's try to keep the answers a little more brief. Next up, Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald. Robbie Lawler defeats Rory McDonald by split decision with scores of 29-28, 28-29, and 29-28. what a great fight that was, and I thought that one was clearly going to be fight of the night up until the main event took place. And again, I picked the underdog to win this one, and that, of course, was Robbie Lawler. I have rounds 1 and 3 scored for Lawler. How about you guys? How did you score the fight and the rounds?
Yeah, I agree with that. I believe Robbie Lawler won those 2 rounds quite clearly. Split decision can go kiss my ass because Robbie Lawler won that fight unanimously. And I am so fucking happy that the Ruthless one is back. This isn't the Robbie Lawler that fought in Strikeforce. This is the one that's hungry for the belt. And I don't know, he just looks like a completely different animal now. He looks so much better than he's ever looked.
It's because he's actually cutting weight again.
Yeah, he looks so good, and I'm so fucking glad he won that fight.
Well, I bet the Canadian fans sighed a big sigh of disappointment when McDonald lost, because he was supposed to be the next messiah in the division.
Yeah, but he doesn't fight. He doesn't fight, though. Like, his last fight with Jake Ellenberger, he didn't fight. He
never has. He never does.
Exactly.
That's the way he always fights. That's his style of fight.
That's his style. It's similar to Machida, but he doesn't have the flash. He wades in, waits for you to come in and counter strikes. The problem is Robbie Lawler is a brawler, and he's going to come at you and attack. And it was an amazing fight. Amazing matchup by Sean Shelby. Great job. And just
How did you have it scored, Blue?
I had it scored the same. I had Lawler winning the first and the third. And McDonald, unless he can get you down and get on top of you, he's got very little to offer you. His striking's not exactly great, and his takedowns aren't exactly great. So he's relying on you making a mistake so he can get you down, and that's where he usually wins fights.
Wasn't it his last fight where he just looked absolutely dreadful? It was a boring fight.
Well, but that's because Ellenberger was dreadful as well. Ellenberger never threw a punch in the whole fight.
Ellenberger was scared. He was terrified.
Yeah. Whereas if Ellenberger had went in with the same attitude as Robbie Lawler, he probably would have won the fight.
I agree. Ellenberger attacking Marquardt was what he needed to do the same way. The problem with Rory is that he has really great strikes. His head kick, his switch kick is perfect. His front kick, teep kick, they're all beautiful. His jab is pretty damn good too, especially when he's training with GSP. But he doesn't attack ever. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. The only time I've seen him attack is against BJ Penn. That was the only fight that Rory's looked definitively good.
And BJ Penn was outsized by way too much. Like that was
exactly. And Nate Diaz, who was outsized as well.
The worst thing Rory McDonald did was join the camp with GSP, because it's changed his style completely to being a counter-striking, stand back, nothing. Whereas before he actually attacked people.
Has he ever
on the other end of that spectrum, the best thing that Robbie Lawler's done is join ATT. Because that's what's, he looks like a completely different fighter.
Looks like a killer. He looks great. Completely. He's attacking. It's awesome. I was loving that fight last night. An incredible fight.
So who did you guys pick in that fight to win?
I picked Lawler, and I'd just like to mention that Greg took the mickey out of me for picking Lawler.
I picked Lawler.
So suck on that, Greg.
I was with you. I picked Lawler.
I also chose Lawler. I thought Lawler would knock out Rory McDonald.
Yeah, I went with Lawler by KO in 2.
Am I the only one that picked Rory McDonald?
No, I picked McDonald.
I picked him because I thought he was going to come back from that terrible performance against Ellenberger and show why he's so good. And I thought he was going to dominate. I thought he had a bad game plan also. I didn't think it was a great idea to strike with him, but Lawler's balance was incredible. But I thought if McDonald could have taken him down a little bit more, he could have finished him on the ground. As you saw at the end of the third round, Lawler was eating some huge elbows, and Rory McDonald's got some crazy ground and pound. It was pretty ridiculous that Rory McDonald couldn't get him down enough, and Robbie Lawler was nailing him with hooks while he's hopping on one leg. It was just crazy.
I mean,
yeah, that was amazing, wasn't it?
2 things I'd like to mention. One, if it wasn't for that last 20 seconds or so in the third round, that would have easily been at least a 10-8 round for Lawler. And 2, yeah, definitely.
10-8?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
I thought you were just going to say a 10-9, but I still don't agree that any judge would give the third round to Rory McDonald just because he landed
Lawler.
strikes.
No, I said I think it would have been a 10-8 to Lawler if
No,
it
I know what
wasn't
you're
for that
saying.
last.
I know what you were saying, but the reason was that it was I thought you were going to say it's a unanimous decision, but the reason at 30 seconds some judge changed his mind to make the third round to Rory. That's what happened.
Well,
One
I'm
of the
going to sum
judges-
this one
No,
up
I'm
here
not
and say
saying-
that
I'm
we
not saying
pretty
that.
much sound like we're all fans of Lawler, and we're kind of glad to see that he's made a sort of a revival and is coming back. So he'll probably be some sort of force in the division from this point forward. What do you guys think?
Hell yeah. I fucking love Robbie Lawler, and he's back, and you can't sleep on him. Rory slept on him and tried to just hang back, play it cool. No, you can't do that when you're fighting Robbie Lawler. He'll knock your fucking head off.
Who's next? Who do you got next for Robbie Lawler?
I would say Jake Shields. The rematch, I think, would be good to do right now.
I agreed with the
that's
one
a
you
good
said
fight.
earlier. I prefer Tyrone Woodley.
I agree. I also prefer Tyron Woodley just because I think Jake Shields is overrated as crap, and I thought he lost to Damian Maia, but whatever.
Not just that. You don't want him facing a fucking wrestler.
Yeah, I think you want to.
Well,
I think the UFC should string out as much Robbie Lawler possible KOs as they
Exactly.
can.
I disagree with that because if you think about it, McDonald is the bigger guy, and he's got wrestling. He's definitely got wrestling credentials, and I think Lawler's takedown defense was amazing, especially when he reversed the takedown from McDonald and wound up on top.
That was amazing. How about that sweep he almost hit in the first round when he almost flipped him over? That would have been insane. Wow.
Exactly,
It
and
was so close.
I just think Lawler's he's doing everything right at the moment.
I agree.
We're riding Robbie Lawler's nuts so hard right now.
I think it's more that I absolutely hate Rory McDonald as well.
I also dislike Rory, but I'm a big Robbie Lawler fan.
Well, it's
I was
good to see
live. I was
the
there
old-
live for his Melvin Manhoff knockout. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's good to see one of the old guys that's been around for a while come back and not fall prey to the younger talent that's out there nowadays.
Yes, I mean it's a nice Cinderella story, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Isn't he relatively young still, though? Because
Oh, he's
he
31.
started out really... I mean, that's relatively young. Hendricks is 30.
He's in his prime, 31. I mean,
Yeah.
Glover Teixeira is, 34, and he's only just getting a title shot.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, Robbie Lawler... He'd be fighting for a title in 2014?
Crazy. Who would have thought?
Unbelievable. Matt Brown, could he be fighting for a title in 2014?
That just sounds wrong.
Matt
What
Brown
a
was the
universe
champion
we
by
live
the
in.
end of the...
All right, guys, let's move on to the next one. Josh Koscheck versus Tyrone Woodley. Another fight where the fighter favored by the odds makers comes out on top. Tyrone Woodley defeats Josh Koscheck by KO due to punches in round one at 4:38. And unfortunately for Koz, he absorbed way too much damage early on in the fight to be able to continue taking shots like that. And like a shark, once Woodley sensed the blood, he went in for the kill. And again, after that fight, another fighter intimates that he's considering retiring the post-fight because from what I understand, Koscheck sent a lengthy text message to Dana White suggesting that he was considering retirement. But today, there's news that Koscheck will not be cut from the UFC after his third consecutive loss.
Who said that?
So, comments on that, guys?
White
said
actually
that?
said it. White himself.
White said that Koscheck will not be cut?
That's right.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm completely shocked by that. I guess White really holds true to the idea that top one fighters are held to a different standard.
Yeah, that's
No,
what it
but
looks like.
when you
isn't it?
think about it, Koscheck, I don't think he deserves to be cut. When you look at Dan Hardy, I think Koscheck's one of them guys where he does 9 times out of 10 bring it, and also he's a marketable fighter. Really, I don't know if any of you saw the pre-fight press conference, but he was probably getting the most questions out of everyone. Everyone
That
is
was
interested.
to do with the 20 years thing and all that as well, and he was
I
part
know,
of
but
the
I
season,
think-
saved the company, etc.
But he also
No, but
fought the champion
I think-
and Johnny Hendricks, so that's why.
Koscheck is a likable fighter, though. I think.
But he's also probably quite high paid, which is what Hardy wouldn't have been.
Yeah, he's like 70,000 probably.
Exactly. Hardy wouldn't have been anything like that. He's more similar to John Fitch than he is to Hardy. and the fact that he's a highly paid guy who's dropping down the rankings.
How much do you think he was paid for the George St-Pierre fight, though, Dan Hardy? That's what I'm thinking.
But what I mean is, if Dana White's going to offer Dan Henderson a new contract, I don't see why he'd cut Josh Koscheck, because Koscheck's lost 3 in a row. But look at who he's lost to: Tyron Woodley, Robbie Lawler, and Johnny Hendricks. And the Johnny Hendricks fight was a split decision. All 3 of them are top 10 fighters.
They are now. Robbie Lawler and Woodley weren't when they beat him, though.
Yeah, they weren't.
But in retrospect, they have built on that fight, and I would say that they were all top 10.
They are now, but they weren't when they beat him. That's the thing.
Yeah, but it's not exactly.
It shows that he's dropping down the rankings, though. These guys are going up as he's going down.
100% agree, and also that his last win was against Mike Pierce in 2012 in a fight that was bullcrap. He should have been deducted a point for poking Mike Pierce in the eye like 20 times, and then before that he knocked out Matt Hughes in 2011. Like the guy is old, and if you're going to be cutting a top 10 guy like Yushin Okami because he doesn't speak English, and John Fitch because he's boring, how do you keep Josh Koscheck?
But that's what
the
I mean.
other thing is he's not just lost; he's lost bad in the 2 fights there that he's lost.
But what I mean is
he's getting hurt.
I don't defend the fact that Okami and John Fitch were cut. If anything, I'm the opposite. I don't think either of them should have been cut, and I don't think Dan Henderson. I think it's good that Dan Henderson's getting another contract, and I think it's good that Josh Koscheck isn't getting cut, because I think if you're going to have fighters that are a lot of fighters aren't great that are filling up these Facebook prelims, then they're never going to get anywhere. Let's face it. So why have a guy like Josh Koscheck, who's probably still top 15? Why cut him and let him go over to another organisation?
Because if I have a guy getting $78,000 for a fighting on a Facebook card, because that's what he should be now.
I'm not saying
he's not going to fight any. Who's he going to fight next? He's got to fight somebody outside the top 20, really.
What about Eric Silva?
It'd be Silva an easy win, I suppose.
I mean, if they want to give Koscheck another fight and he wants to prove he could fight, then give him the killer that's Eric Silva, because Silva got KO'd in his last fight. Woodley got KO'd, and Koscheck got KO'd last night. I mean, why not?
Yeah, you could put that in a main card in Brazil, and it'd help build Silva's name, because he would knock him out.
Yeah, they need Silva to win badly.
Is it worth paying somebody $78,000 for that?
See, I disagree, because I thought coming into the fight that Josh Koscheck's chin is completely gone, but did you see some of the shots that Woodley was landing? I mean, at one point I thought Josh Koscheck was out completely, and Joe Rogan even said it.
I thought they should have.
I don't know. He looked like he had his bearings. He wasn't. He had his guard.
I think that was the same kind of flash KO, though, that Frank Mir had with Josh Barnett, I mean, Woodley threw down some heavy haymakers, and Josh Koscheck was frozen for, like, at least a millisecond. Like, he was definitely out. I think that shows more that he's got good recovery than anything. True. I mean, I respect that. I respect that opinion for sure. I understand. I just thought that they could have been stopped. I'm not saying it should have been. I think it was better for the UFC that it wasn't, because it would have been more controversial. And then Woodley got the definitive KO about a minute later. So I'm just saying, if Dana White I think Dana White should be, or the UFC should be, a little bit more consistent with who they cut and who they don't cut. Like Leonard Garcia, Dan Hardy versus John Fitch and Yushin Okami. I just don't understand.
That would be praying for a miracle, though, because there is no consistency in the way that the UFC matchmakers and DFW do things,
See, it's difficult to ask for consistency when we all compare a fighter just purely on what kind of fighter he is, whereas they're comparing them on how much money they earn. There's a big... And if you're paying a guy a lot of money, you've got to have guys who are getting paid a lot of money on the main card. But there's no value to that guy being sitting on a Facebook card.
Yeah, but it's not only that. I mean, you've got to look at the situation where why is there an immediate rematch with GSP and Hendricks now when with Gustafsson and Jones there isn't?
That's a great point. That is a great
no
point.
argument for that. And same with Melendez and Henderson back when that happened as well. That should have been a rematch as well.
Right, but I'm just saying, back to back, we have two situations like that, where you've got, two very controversial, decisions and fights. And how does Jones-Gustafsson not warrant an immediate rematch, but this one does?
Rich, my thoughts on that is that I really believe that the UFC was trying to set up of the bigger rematch, make people wait. John Jones, I'm pretty sure everyone believes that John Jones is going to beat Glover by taking him down. I know Glover can knock him out probably, but it's likely John Jones will win that fight. And then they're going to have Alexander Gustafsson fight Little Nogueira. Let's be real, Alexander Gustafsson's going to kill Little Nog. There's no way. But then Little Nog gets injured. Okay, Manuel is definitely a tougher fight, but I think Alexander Gustafsson wins. If they both win and then they fight in the rematch, it's just going to be bigger. It's just going to be that much bigger.
Well, I don't know if it is, because I don't think Jimmy Manuel is that I don't think that's going to do too much to Gustafsson. I think Gustafsson, if he fought Jones now, it'd be the same as if he fought Jones coming off a win on Manuel, because I don't think many guys outside of us Brits and hardcore fans know who Manuel is.
I don't know. I think he's garnered a lot of prospects, and I'm definitely sure the UFC is going to promote the crap out of him before that Gustafsson fight. Explain that he's 13-0 and so many finishes and yada. He's a big draw, and the UFC has shown well, he's not a big draw yet. They're going to try to make him one, but they show that they love European fighters. They love Michael Bisping, and they want to love Jimmy Manuwa, and Jimmy Manuwa has the ability to fight Alexander Gustafsson. This is the hugest moment in his career, so can't say we're going to see what happens.
I wonder if there's going to be a mysterious stoppage in the fight where Gustafsson gets injured.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Can I go back to Koscheck for a second? I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on something for Koscheck. Do you think that the UFC also, when we're talking about consistency for cutting people, do you think that we also don't take for granted or take account of how the Dana White and the UFC has a relationship with this certain fighter? I'm sure Yushin Okami is a great guy, but he also doesn't speak English, and he probably doesn't have the same relationship that Dana White has with Leonard Garcia, Dan Hardy, or Josh Koscheck, or Chris Lieben even. Dana White has said many times that he feels bad for Chris Lieben and he wants to make sure that he has a job. And, I feel like that definitely has something to do with the fact that Josh Koscheck will not get cut tomorrow night.
Well, quite clearly, I think this is what it all comes down to. DFW has stated over and again that he does not, particularly care for wrestling fighters who smother fighters, and he likes the guys who are exciting and go out there and just bang it out. So that's probably what's behind it. Yeah, and in addition to what you said as well, he does have a certain affinity to specific fighters that he does favor.
Do people remember when John Fitch was cut for 24 hours because of the whole UFC Undisputed? He had the disagreement with THQ or something. Does anyone remember that? He was cut over. I can't remember, something to do with his naming rights or something with THQ for the UFC Undisputed game, and he was cut after the GSP loss.
Damn.
That was going back quite a ways now.
Yeah, but I think that shows that maybe he doesn't have a very good relationship with Dana. And as you said, that's one of the most crucial things. I remember someone saying that the best thing for you to do if you're a UFC fighter is when you're at the weigh-in, shake everyone's hand and stuff like that, because that sort of thing does go a long way with the UFC. They do seem to be the sort of organisation where you've got to be in their good books to get good treatment.
Oh, quite clearly, and Chuck Liddell is a perfect example of that, because how many times was he going to get the shit knocked out of him before he finally retired?
Chael Sonnen, look at the money he's making.
And what about What about on the contrary, the guys that don't have good relationships? Ken Shamrock, Tito Ortiz, Frank Shamrock. Those guys should be in the Hall of Fame, period. End of story. Frank Shamrock should be in the Hall of Fame, but he won't be because of Dana White. They don't have a relationship.
Yeah, it's tough to talk about DFW because I love the guy. I love his frankness and, you know, how he just comes right out and says what he wants with no worry about repercussions, if anything. But, yeah, he does hold a little bit of a grudge with people. That's quite obvious.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on, guys. Next up, I'm probably going to butcher the hell out of this name, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. Ali Bagautinov versus Timothy Elliott. Was that close?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, Timothy Elliott. That's definitely right.
All right, the favored fighter by oddsmakers didn't fare as well in this bout again. Bagautinov defeats Tim Elliott by unanimous decision with scores of 29-28, 29-28, and 30-27. I had actually scored the fight 29-28 Elliott, giving him rounds 2 and 3, but it was, in fact, a close fight. So I really didn't have a problem with the fight being scored 29-28 for either fighter. The general consensus is Bagautinov won the first 2 rounds because Elliott fought with his hands at his side. But in the third round, Elliott managed to come out and apply pressure, dictating the pace of round 3. Unfortunately for Elliott, it was a little too little and a little too late. How did you guys score that fight and the rounds?
Yeah, I don't disagree with... Go on, sorry, Mike.
I scored the fight for the Russian guy purely because he's Russian, and with my logic, Russian fighters don't lose. That has still applied. So that's how I scored the fight.
Yeah, they have a lot
based off that.
Wait, Rich, did you say that you scored the third round for Elliott?
Yes.
I scored the first and third round for Ali.
I did too. That's how I scored it as well.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember that Bagaudinov's debut, but he looked sloppy as hell. I mean, he definitely had power, but he looked very sloppy.
He looked better last night for sure, but he also KO'd the guy.
He did, but he I think Timothy Elliott's a lot better opponent than Marcus Vinicius.
Yeah, way better. I would agree. I think Tim Elliott could have gotten a title shot with a win over Ali and one other opponent. I see Ali. He looks real good. I mean, honestly, I don't remember the fight as much just because of the crazy drama that occurred afterwards, and it wasn't the most exciting. I wish they put the Donald Cerrone Evan Dunham fight on pay-per-view because it was fantastic. But I mean, Ali looked good, and Timothy Elliott looked like he disrespected Ali's skills and kind of underestimated him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
All right, so we all agreed that the second round was for Elliott?
That's how I had it.
Yep.
Sure, why not?
All right, so the round in question then was what?
Round 3. For me,
you have it one for Ali, 2 for Elliott, and 3 for who?
I think the third, I think that's the one that I think people are disagreeing on.
Yeah,
I think I remember scoring it for Ali.
Yeah, I scored 10-9 Ali for round 3.
Yeah. But that was the closest of the 3, definitely.
I have to watch the fight again to really say.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a close fight, and you know, like I say, I really didn't care if it went either way. I mean, I'm not emotionally invested in either one of those fighters.
No, exactly.
If they have a fight in Russia, they need to have Ali fight there. They need to do it so that they can build up Khabib Nurmagomedov and Elliott, Rustam Khabilov. These guys are good fighters. They need to start.
Yeah, those Russian guys, I think they're going to wind up taking the place of the Brazilian fighters.
And they're all from Dagestan as well.
What is? Can someone explain this Dagestan thing? I don't know. What is this?
Just a lead.
It's just basically within Russia, they kind of have different sort of countries in Russia, like within sort of thing. It's just basically like
it's like a state.
Yeah.
That's the way to look at it. It's a different. It's just a state within Russia. It's like being either in Washington or whatever.
Got it.
Okay. Any more comments on that one, guys?
I think that's good with me.
I'm done.
Mark?
The fight happened. the Russian guy won.
And you're happy.
That's how I feel.
That's a good summary there, Mark.
Blue, how about you?
I'm a future play-by-play.
Yeah, it was a decent fight with two little guys. Nothing more.
Okay, let's move on
I
to
don't
the
think
next
Joe
one.
Rogan's
And,
scared about his job with you
that
two guys.
finishes the main card. Let's go and talk about one of the undercard bouts. Donald Cerrone versus Evan Dunham. Donald Cerrone defeats Evan Dunham by submission due to triangle choke in round 2 at 3:49. And Cerrone looked impressive as hell in that fight. Apparently, he was looking to make a statement. He did just that. Cerrone was the favorite. I thought a lot of fans were actually expecting this one to go to the distance because I saw a lot of people out there, questioning whether or not he would get a finish since he's been struggling recently. What do you guys think?
I think that fight 2 happened, and Cerrone really fucked up in round 1. Like, he had Dunham hurt, and I feel like he probably could have finished Dunham in round 1 and got the early finish. But, I guess he let him survive till the second round, and he picked up submission of the night, so I guess he didn't fuck up for him, because he got an extra bonus. But, I don't know, I feel like he could have finished Dunham a lot earlier. But I'm glad he looked the way he looked, though.
Evan Dunham is one hell of a tough dude. I mean, I don't know if anyone remembers the Dunham versus TJ Grant fight. That was, TJ Grant put everything on him. TJ Grant's got, a hell of a lot of power, and he wasn't able to stop him. So I think that's a very impressive win for Cerrone.
How about the Rafael Dos Anjos fight? He was looking good in that fight too. Evan Dunham is a legit fighter. He's more than a gatekeeper at lightweight. But Donald Cerrone looked fantastic last night. He looked like he's revived his career a little bit. He looked real sluggish in his last 2 fights. He looked terrible against Anthony Pettis. I think that's more attested to how great Pettis is. But Cerrone just was on the attack last night. He had everything going for him. He had step-in elbows. He was throwing beautiful knees to the body. The triangle was gorgeous. He looked great last night.
Yeah, he was clearly on a mission to make a statement, no doubt about it.
Yeah, Cerrone's one of them fighters where he has to be fighting a guy with a certain style to look impressive. I mean, when he fought Jeremy Stevens, Jeremy Stevens, Melvin Gillard, KJ Noons and Evan Dunham, they're his last 4 fights, and he's only really looked impressive because all of them they don't really have game plans. They all just bring it no matter what, and they try to, knock your head off. And I think, with guys like Dos Anjos and Pettis who fight more sort of methodically, that's where he struggles.
Yeah, well, Cerrone is a Jackson MMA fighter, right?
Yeah, I disagree with that idea that Stevens and Dunham are in the same group right there. I don't see Stevens was not ever very good at lightweight. He just has a lot of power. He really just comes in and, as you said, just wings it. But I think Dunham is more than that. I think Dunham is a legit guy. He had a game plan against Dos Anjos, and I'm sure he had one last night. But I can see what you're saying, how he's slightly brawler type, but he definitely has a game plan going in. It's just Cerrone was out for blood last night. He was out for blood last night, and I'm excited for him to be in the featherweight division.
See, I disagree with something you said earlier about Cerrone should have opened the pay-per-view. I thought it was a great placement putting him as like a headline fight for the Fox card. I thought it was a great fight to have as the kind of lead in to the pay-per-view.
Oh,
because you knew it was going to be an exciting fight.
Yeah, also the fact that they're both coming off losses, I think, I agree with you there, Greg.
I totally agree with you on the idea of for the UFC promotion side. It was a more of a hindsight type of thing, as in, Ali's the flyweight fight wasn't as great as the Cerrone fight. Because if that was on the pay-per-view card, what an amazing bout to start it off, and then you go to Woodley,
I think you'll see more of that. The opening bout in the pay-per-view will be a bit less than the closing fight in the Fox stuff.
Yeah,
I think they're going to have pretty good headline fights in the Fox cards now.
The Hector Lombard Nate Marquardt fight the other week.
That's right. Yeah.
Prelims, right?
It does make sense to do that. It's good movement for the UFC.
Yeah, because it gets the potential. Say there's someone watching the prelims who's not intending to buy the pay-per-view card, and they see a fight like Dunham versus Cerrone. I imagine they'll be convinced to buy the pay-per-view.
100% agree.
Yep, definitely.
You guys also think that on the opposite side of the spectrum, if you're Bagautinov and Elliott, you have the chance right now for people who are coming to see GSP and seeing Chael Sonnen, you have the opportunity on the first pay-per-view card to make a name for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Okay, fellas, let's move on. Let's go to the of the night bonuses. Okay, each fighter last night who won an of the night bonus was awarded $50,000. Fight of the night goes to George St-Pierre versus Johnny Hendricks. What do you think, guys? Clearly deserving of the fight of the night.
I think personally, I prefer the Lawler versus McDonald fight, but as I said earlier, I think that's more because I'm a fan of Lawler and I don't like McDonald, and also because I think the decision sort of ruined it, the St-Pierre Hendricks fight. I think everyone sort of overshadowed.
Well, it was exciting as hell, no doubt about it.
No, exactly.
I couldn't agree with you more. Everything you said right there, I just exactly agree with you. I'm a huge Lawler fan. It was awesome, and the decision totally didn't ruin it. It just took a lot of the luster off how amazing that fight was, how Johnny Hendricks was literally beating the best welterweight ever, and then he got stolen. He got taken away, what I believe. But I think they should have done both of them should have won the fight of the night. It was Robbie Lawler's fight was so amazing. He took it to Rory McDonald. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean that was something I touched up on the last show, that they used to give out multiple of the night bonuses. Like sometimes Dana White would be a little too sort of cash friendly, and he'd give 2 knockout of the nights and 2 fight of the nights.
Yeah,
and I think now
they probably did this more out of fucking sympathy and pity for Hendricks since he got robbed.
I also think they probably give them bonuses that aren't told. Like he probably goes in the back and says, "Yo, Robbie Lawler, you just put it to him, extra 10 grand, extra 20." We don't know.
We don't hear about that.
It surprises me that, I mean, Dana White normally gives, if he thinks a guy is one who gets robbed by the judges, he normally gives them their win bonus regardless.
I didn't see any comments on that.
But what are we on about now? I kind of zoned out here.
Big Merc was masturbating.
I was masturbating over the fact Robbie Lawler won. So, I think the Fighting Night bonus went to the right person, but because Robbie Lawler is Robbie Lawler and I love him, he probably should have got a bonus. I really think he should get another bonus, like a backstage one or something like that they usually do. But yeah, he definitely deserves more money. Give him all the money in the world. I'd be happy with that.
You looked great last night.
I think we should call this the Robbie Lawler tribute show. We've been licking his ass a lot tonight.
Yeah. You got a comment on that before we move on?
Who are you most impressed with, though? I mean, right? Isn't that what it's about?
Completely, yeah.
Blue, did we lose you?
No. Just couldn't
comment
get
on that before we move on? I'm trying to keep these brief here.
No, I thought the Cerrone fight was the fight of the night personally myself.
Wow.
But he was never going to win it.
I think
Get your shit together, man. Get your shit together. You mean
Cerrone ass whipping? How is that? How could that be the fight of the night?
Because it was the only one that was really exciting for me, to be honest.
What?
Honestly.
Robbie Lawler, what? He just kicked Rory McDonald's ass. That was awesome.
Yeah, but the first round, nothing happened at all.
Oh man! Oh my gosh!
Let's move on before move on.
Okay, so we're all of different opinions here, it sounds like, because I thought George St-Pierre versus Johnny Hendricks was worthy of fight of the night. I also did believe that Robbie Lawler should have got fight of the night as well in the McDonald fight. Blue just thought that it should have been Donald Cerrone's bout with Dunham.
Yeah, but he's Scottish.
Okay.
That's your excuse for everything there, Mark.
It sounds like both Alex and Jacob were leaning towards Robbie Lawler.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I enjoyed the fight more, but for the bonus, I would give it to Hendricks GSP. But
yeah, Hendricks deserved more money, as we've said. definitely.
Hendricks and Lawler were the two most impressive people last night.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
I
move
think
on.
that should be
Knockout of the night, guys. That goes to Tyrone Woodley. That was well deserved. No.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
no denying
Absolutely.
that. I think we'll just agree and move on.
Yeah, totally in agreement.
Okay.
Sure.
We saved some time on that one. Okay, and submission of the night, that goes to Donald Cerrone. I thought that was extremely impressive. How about you guys?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, and also there was no other submission, so we can't really talk about that either.
I mean, the way that he locked that in and he knew that he had won, it kind of reminded me of what that fight, remember that fight with Nate Diaz where he locked in the triangle?
Yeah. Finger.
it's Kurt Pellegrino. That
How
is
about-
brilliant.
How about the Uma Plata sweep he hit right before that?
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Yo,
Cerrone
he almost finished an Uma Plata in the UFC without a gi. That is incredible.
How many decisions were there last night? Quite a few, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8, 9.
Holy shit. Is that a record?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think there's
no, I
another
don't-
card to about that many.
And honestly, it was still a great card because the main card was fantastic. The undercard was horrible, but the main card was fantastic.
Yeah, and also I think normally when 9 times out of 10, when the undercard's good, the main card sucks, and vice versa.
I actually enjoyed the whole damn thing.
Yeah, me
What?
too. I enjoyed the whole
Enjoyed
thing as
Rick's
well.
story?
I enjoyed the
Rick's
whole.
story?
I enjoyed the whole card. I thought it was great.
And the Talis latest fight.
Oh,
God.
terrible.
Okay, I skipped that fight, but the rest, I enjoyed the rest as well.
Yeah, I might not have seen every single fight. You know, I get up and
Did you see-
go make myself some snacks and eat during the undercard fights. But I thought overall it was a great night of fights. How would you guys rate the event overall?
From a main
7 out
card
of 10.
standpoint, yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, 7 out of 10. That's fair enough.
Main card, I would say 8 out of 10, and rest and the whole card, yeah, 7 is fair because the undercard was pretty poor.
I would say 10 out of 10 because of Robbie Lawler.
Lou?
Yeah, I said 7 out of 10, yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll go along with the crew there. I was going to say 8 out of 10, but I guess my standards aren't quite as high as yours.
I think the only thing I was a little bit disappointed with was, the guys like Eric Perez and Sergio Pettis, who look like prospects, I don't think they looked as good as I was expecting. I was expecting both of them to get finishes.
I agree with you 100%. That was a huge disappointment for me as well.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier on in the show, yeah, I predicted a lot more finishes in the fight. I didn't expect so many decisions, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Look, sometimes we get lucky. Like last week, I thought both events last week were fantastic, top to bottom. I just think that this main card was really good. If people only saw, most casual fans just saw the main card, that is a really, really good main card to watch.
At the same time, if Hendricks did tap 20 seconds in and that fight was stopped, I think that card wouldn't be half as good as it was.
Yeah.
I think the main event is one of
Yeah,
the
that main event
reasons
was
it's
exciting
so
as
good.
hell. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about
the
it.
main event was great. It was great. It was just a little bit messed up. I think if Hendricks won that fight that I believe he should deservedly have won, the press conference would have been much better. It would have been talking about a great 20th anniversary show where Johnny Hendricks just beat the best welterweight champion ever, and Robbie Lawler destroyed the guy that was supposed to be the next GSP, and Tyrone Woodley. It was all the new guys except for one old player, and it would have been better. I thought the luster was taken off with the.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
The electric in the air would have been highly charged if that was the fact. But yeah, that probably did put a damper on the post-fight conference. Okay, guys, let's wrap that up. And it looks like we're at the end of the show. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go through the final thoughts segment. I want to thank you guys for showing up and doing the show. That was a great chat, great discussion. Do you guys have any final thoughts about anything that we might have missed?
Only for me, I can't wait to see Anderson Silva regain his title in a month.
Got it. I'm so with you right there.
Good.
And I'm not with either of you. Whiteman's going to beat him decisively.
And I'm with you on that.
Who's
I think Rich, you should pay me money in general, just for being here. I deserve money.
I'll do that because you're so fucking awesome.
Thank you. That's how I work for my money.
Who here believes Weidman is winning at 168?
Yeah, completely.
Who else?
Me.
And
I don't know.
And then the other three believe Anderson?
No,
I-
no. I'm
Anderson for
50-50.
me.
I honestly have no idea.
I think Anderson is going to go in there and knock him out in round one.
I hope he does the same shit he did last time and clowns him, and he gets knocked out again.
I think Robbie Lawler will walk in the cage and knock both of them out.
Yes! Yes!
Say it again, I missed that.
I think Robbie Lawler will walk in the cage and knock both of them out. Claim the middleweight belt.
All right,
Holy
let's
Christ, we're doing some serious ball massaging here of Robbie Lawler tonight.
And boy, does it feel good.
I'm most excited for.
Yeah, we've all heard of nut hugging, but this show consisted of some serious ball massaging. Any other final thoughts or comments, guys?
Yeah,
What
I'd
did you
like
say,
to
Alex?
know. I'd like to know what fights you guys are excited for coming up.
Oh God, I can't even think what's coming up. Yeah, Weidman Silva. There's going to be
the
no
one
bigger
I really
fight
like.
in history.
Any Robbie Lawler fight.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to Matt Brown and Carlos Condit. I want to see how Matt Brown can do against a guy like Carlos Condit. Like, I think there's a real chance there that we can see Matt Brown come from this, not a guy that was just nothing on tough, and actually become a title contender. It's just crazy.
I'm quite excited for Josh Barnett versus Travis Brown.
Oh God, yes, that's going to be
Very
amazing.
interesting.
That's 168 also, right?
Yeah, and
Oh
of
my
course,
God, what a
Rousey
card.
Tate. I really hope Tate defeats Rousey so much.
Oh fuck.
I hope they just have. I hope they don't fight and they just do other stuff in the cage.
And Robbie Lawler's the ref.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's bring that topic up, guys. I don't know if Alex heard the beginning of the show where we're doing the pre-chat talk before the show. Did he hear that comment about the weigh-ins?
What?
Go ahead, Mark, or whoever it was.
yeah.
I think it was Jacob that brought it up.
Will Campazano with his raging boner.
Yeah, Mr.
yeah.
Boner Boy.
Why was he so excited? Did you guys see on Instagram that he posted something about it?
No, I didn't see it.
He posted the picture and he's like, "Oh, I'm so excited to fight this guy."
Oh, my God.
I think he was excited because he's fighting on the same card as Robbie Lawler.
You've
All
nailed
right,
it.
everyone here loves Robbie Lawler. He's gonna.
I think if it was Merck versus Campazano, they'd just have a sword fight the whole.
Oh, my God.
I wanted Sergio Pettis really badly to kick his ass last night and just knock him out, but his takedown defense looked pretty crappy.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
Okay, let's go ahead and wrap it up, guys. Blue, did you have anything you wanted to add to final thoughts?
No, that was my lot. Just looking forward to Anderson Silva.
Okay. All right, guys, we've reached the end of the show. Time to say our goodbyes. I want to thank you all for showing up. I truly appreciate it. Had a great show, and hopefully we'll all get together and do it again. And if there's somebody you want to say hello or goodbye to, now's the time to do it.
I'd just like to remind Greg, don't ever disagree with me on my predictions.
No problem. No problem.
That's consecutively that's happened.
Yeah, it happened with Lawler Koscheck as well, and also when he said that he laughed at me because I wanted to change to Lombard first round KO, and he put Marquardt as well accidentally.
Yeah, I've no problem with you getting one fight right. I still came above you.
I just I want
not
to
what
give a
matters.
shout out. I want to give a shout out to Kevin Lee, who won his first professional title last night
Oh, yes.
in
I'm glad you
first
brought
round
that up.
standing guillotine choke.
I'm glad you brought that up. I spoke to him, and he's going to be on a roundtable show discussing that.
Can I please be on that show? Because I like
you
him
can.
a lot.
Yes.
Who's Kevin Lee?
He's an up-and-coming fighter. He won a fight last night, and it was the championship. I can't remember what organization it was. But the guy's pretty... he looks like he's a pretty good prospect, no, Mark?
Yeah, he looks very good. And first round standing guillotine, that's very impressive.
Is he another one of your... Greg, Merck, is he another one of your special friends like Robbie Lawler?
Let's not push it. Let's not push him.
But he'll be on. I told him, I was speaking to him last night with Merck as we were going back and forth. Or was it this morning? I can't remember because I'm so tied up with the show. But, we DM'd each other back and forth. And I said, hey, man, congratulations on the win. Oh, thanks. And I said, man, we got to get you on the live chat hour show. He said, sure, anytime. And then I got back and forth with him on DMs, and he said, yeah, man, I'm ready to do it. We'll have a good time and make a fun time out of it. So I told him I'll get in touch with him on Tuesday, and we'll set things up. So if any of you guys want to be on with us, let me know, and I'll work that out.
Hey, guys,
Yes.
this is important. You guys should listen to this. Luke Rockhold just posted this on Twitter. It's a sheet that's judges' instructions, and it says that damage is the #1 scoring criteria.
Well, there you go.
Damage is the #1 de facto scoring criterion.
There you fucking go. That tells you who won the fight.
Ask yourself the question, who would I rather be? Yo, holy crap, this is crazy.
I would rather be Robbie Lawler.
I'm posting it in the message thing so you guys can see it.
Out of everyone on that card, I would rather be Robbie Lawler, though. So it doesn't matter to me.
Heavier strikes that have a visible impact on the opponent will be given more weight than the number of strikes landed. Elbows by Hendricks in the first round.
Yeah, but that's effective striking, so that'd be significant strikes, right?
Yeah,
If a round is
And then GSP won significant strikes. So
this is the reason why they take the takedowns in more effect. Check this out. If a round is affected more by grappling than grappling will be than striking. Grappling will be weighed more heavily. AKA, if you get a takedown and still don't do anything, you're still on top of him, so it's going to be weighed more heavily. That's ridiculous.
The rules are all too vague. There's nothing obvious about them.
I think we needed that a lot sooner because we really can't go into it now because of the time, the show.
Well,
Okay, guys. Anybody else want to say goodbye before we log off here?
See ya. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for...
See ya.
Give a shout out to your
What'd you
give a
say?
shout out to your website.
Are you going to come back and join us again, Alex?
I'd love to if you guys would want me to.
Yeah, man. Awesome.
Yeah, you're fine with me if you love Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, I love Robbie Lawler. You can check out my work on fansided.com /category/MMA. I do play-by-play for all the events, and I think I'm pretty good at it. So I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. It would be great if you guys would let me know what you think.
I am about to explode right
Okay,
now.
let's say goodbye one more time, guys. Just a quick goodbye from everybody. Thanks for showing up, guys. I truly appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Peace.
See you.
All right, guys. That's it.